Do I have sound now? All right, so let's get started again. Sorry about that. I had a bit of a volume issue. So today is Tuesday, 8th of March. We're going to carry on with everything is obtained by the power of prayer. We're going to carry on from where we left off last time. And as you know, this is a very important topic, and we're still carrying on with it during the morning lesson. So going over these excerpts is good for us for also preparation and getting ourselves ready for the morning lesson as well. And also, these are great for inner work. So we can actually go over them and see how we can, under what circumstances, how can we operate our desire, our inner desire, to turn towards the Creator. And also these topics are very important because these are how we can clarify the state that we're in. Okay. So let's start. Now we stopped at item number 11 on this one, so we'll carry on from there. Okay. Item number 11, this is from Rabash. There's no light without a kli, no filling without a lack. First, one needs to obtain a deficiency. That is, he must feel that he is deficient of this kli called desire to bestow. And concerning feeling, it is impossible to feel any lack if one does not know what he is losing by not having the kli called desire to bestow. For this reason, man must introspect on what causes him not to have the desire to bestow. To the extent of the loss, he feels sorrow and suffering. When he has the real lack, meaning when he can pray to the Creator from the bottom of the heart for not having the strength to be able to work for the sake of the Creator, then when he has the kli, meaning the real lack, this is the time when his prayer is answered and he receives assistance from above. It is as our sages said, he who comes to purify is aided. All right, so let's go through that again. Let's do that. Item number 11. There's no light without a kli, no filling without a lack. First, one needs to obtain a deficiency. So there's no prayer to the Creator unless I have some kind of a desire for the Creator. I need some kind of a deficiency, right? A need. That is, he must feel that he's deficient of this kli called desire to bestow, right? So as we work, the thing that we need to come to first is to realize that I don't have a desire to bestow. And we don't have one, okay? We don't have no deficiency. We don't feel like we need a desire to bestow or anything to do with bestow. And concerning a feeling, it's impossible to feel any lack if one does not know what he's losing by not having the kli called the desire to bestow. So if I don't know what bestowal is, I don't really know what I'm lacking, right? So if I've never tasted mango, I'm not going to miss mango. Right, but if I taste it for the first time, it's a nice juicy mango. Then I'm going to say to myself, I miss myself a good mango. Right? Why? Because I've got a taste for the mango. So now, if I don't have a taste for bestowal, there's nothing to miss. And concerning a feeling, it's impossible to feel any lack if one does not know what he's losing by not having the kli called the desire to bestow. For this reason, man must introspect on what causes him not to have the desire to bestow. So we have to understand what's the reason, what's the cause that we don't have a desire to bestow, right? So the studied spirituality or the wisdom of Kabbalah, what the spirituality that we're talking about is obviously just the wisdom of Kabbalah here. As I study, I should come to realize that my nature has nothing to do with bestowal. It's completely far from bestow, has no connection at all with bestowing. To the extent of the loss, he feels sorrow and suffering. So on the one hand, I have to understand that my nature has nothing to do with bestowal, not connected to bestowal at all. we only do what our desire to receive wants us to do, where we feel that there's a benefit, or we feel pleasure, or we run away from suffering. So those are the only calculations we're doing, but we're never making a calculation based on bestowing. We're always making a calculation based on how much pleasure I'm going to get, or how I'm going to reduce the suffering I'm going through. That's all. We're not going to do anything, there's nothing else to talk about. This is how we calculate things. So how am I going to find out to the extent of the loss he feels sorrow and suffering? Well, how's that going to work out? So the study should develop us in such a way that I should be able to see that my egoism is causing me, right? So I can't say lack of bestowal is causing me suffering, right? Because we don't know what bestowal is, right? We don't have any bestowal. But I can say, as we study, I can say my selfishness or my egoism, right, which is the opposite of bestowing, is causing me suffering. All right, so we can come to understand that. So when he has the real lack, meaning when he can pray to the Creator from the bottom of the heart for not having the strength to be able to work for the sake of the Creator. So what am I seeing here, right? I'm seeing that I'm such an egoist that there is no way I'll be able to do anything for anybody. Forget the Creator, put him aside for one moment, right? But for anyone, right? I will not have the ability to do any bestowal to anyone. So I'll have to come and see that that's the case. Then when he has the kli, meaning the real lack, this is the time when his prayer is answered. So that real lack for the prayer to be answered is how bad my egoism is. I reveal how bad my ego is, and I want to get rid of it. That's also a kli. That's also a vessel. It's not a deficiency for bestowal, but it's a deficiency for not wanting to be an egoist, which is the same thing as wanting bestowal, right? So two things work from opposite ends. And then he receives assistance from above, right? So the Creator is supposed to give us a hand. As our sages said, he who comes to purify is aided. So we should get some help in order to change our situation. Okay. Okay. All right, so that's that. Any questions so far? No? Okay. No questions. Right, let's do this. Okay, let's move on to item number 12. Okay, so this is actually important to understand, right? Because when we're talking about bestowal, right, in the 11, we're talking about bestowal, but because we're not vessels of bestowal, right? The Creator is a vessel of bestowal. We are vessels of reception. And the way our nature works is with the formula or the software or the design of egoism. So I'm always thinking about how I can receive for myself. So I have no regard for anybody else. Even when I do have regard for somebody else, it's because I have some benefit of thinking about others. in the meantime. And if I saw that I had no benefit about thinking of others, I wouldn't, right? Including family, friends, you name it. Okay. If I felt there was no benefit to thinking about them, or let's say if I didn't feel bad, I'd feel bad if I didn't think about them, right? Okay. So I think about them. Otherwise, I feel bad. All right. So the way our nature works is we love just one person, me. All right. That's how it works. So all our calculations is based on that. So when we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, we understand that we only love ourselves towards everyone, even the kids, right? Kids, well, we love them because they're ours, right? But as they grow up, what do we say? We say, listen, you got to move on with your life and go. You know, you got to go, move on, all right? Because we want to like, come on, enough is enough, yeah? You know what I mean? So as you can see, even our love for children is, it's just based on self-love. Everything is based on self-love. So obviously, it's a bit hard to accept, right? But Kabbalists aren't really worried about how we're gonna feel bad when we face the truth. They want to tell us things straightforward so we understand. Why? Because if I understand the situation I'm in, I then have wisdom, right? To say, okay, let's play around with this. Let's make it a few tweaks, Let's see what we can change, arrange, rearrange. That's why it's important for us to understand the truth. It's important for us to understand the nature of our nature. So from there, we can begin, because if I understand my nature, I can then begin to clarify what's bad about it. And if I start to see, well, wait a minute, that's not so nice. Okay, then I can say, oh my God, that's not so nice, right? I'm always thinking about myself, and I'm thinking, well, that's just the things that I'm doing. I'll begin to spot what's not good, what I don't approve of. And that's going deep into your nature. So once you start going deep into your nature, then you understand how your nature works. Then you've got the power to do something against it because you've got wisdom, you've got knowledge, right? So let's say you're eating a lot of chocolate, but all of a sudden you understand sugar is bad for you. Then you've got knowledge. Then you can say to me, well, wait a minute, let's just balance this out a little bit. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't have chocolate every day, so once every few days. Okay, so I'm making a calculation. Why? Because I'm basing it now on knowledge. So this is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is. It's just an understanding which allows you to make a little switch. Okay, so if you understand something is bad for you in corporeality as well, you understand something is bad for you, you don't do it. In spirituality, you understand your egoism is causing you harm, then you begin to play around with, well, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be such an egoist, right? So how can I now think? What's a new way of thinking, right? That I can now start adjusting myself. So the Kabbalist gives a few advice, right? They got a few advices for us, and they say, well, don't do to others what you don't like done to yourself. Okay, so is that a good sentence? That's a really good sentence, because we can now work with that, right? So, well, wait a minute. If I did this to this person, would I like it if somebody did it to me? So I can now start putting myself in the place of others. All right, so I can think both ways. All right, so getting to understand our nature can happen if we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, and we then use what we understand and what we learn in the group, right? Because then I've got practice area. I've got I've got a dartboard and play around with people. So I can shoot back and forth with them, and I can get the bullseye exactly, because I can then measure my behavioral aspects, how I behave, what my nature is doing, and how it's actually working within me automatically, right? I can just observe this thing called me, the desire to receive for oneself, within the interaction of others, with the understanding of how my nature works from the outside. If I didn't have this understanding of how my nature works, then I can't observe myself from the outside. It's not possible because I'm in a process, right? Day to day, we don't observe ourselves. I can only observe if I understand that, somebody's pointing something out to me, and then I can look at it from the side, right? So as we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, we begin to understand how our nature works, and I can shift out a little bit to see what's going on, right? And that little shift is all we need to start looking at ourselves from a different perspective and beginning to see what's really not right with our attitude towards other people. All right, so obviously this takes a little bit of time, okay, as with everything, but this is how we can move forward. All right. Now then, let's read number 12. The only way to obtain a deficiency that we are lacking the desire to bestow is by prayer, which is a medium between man and the deficiency. Now, prayer means the deficiency, right? So we all understand by now that praying to the Creator is not going to happen by sheer lip service, right? So we can't have that. It's got to be something I feel. This is why in number 11, where we read a minute ago, it says, no feeling without a lack. So I have to feel that I lack something in order to turn to the Creator. And that lack is actually the prayer, right? Because the prayer is what we lack. So what does it say? The only way to obtain a deficiency that we're lacking the desire to bestow is by prayer, which is a medium between man and deficiency. So I need to do something that should bring me to a deficiency. That is one praise for the Creator, to give him something for which he has no deficiency. How am I going to ask the Creator to give me something for which I have no deficiency for, unless I put some work into it? All right, I can't just scream to the Creator, hey, give me something to bestow. It's not going to work out. First, you've got to try it out, test it out, and see that you can't bestow. Then you got to feel like, I'm a really bad, nasty person, and that's not nice. Okay. Then I've got a deficiency to turn to the Creator. Then I can say, listen, you created me, that's all fine, but you made a bad job. Can you please fix these bad things? Okay. And this is actually what the Creator wants us to do. He wants us to point out to him the reason we want to change from egoism to altruism. Okay. And that's called a prayer, because I'm pinpointing at something. I'm not just screaming out like a baby, right? I am pinpointing to a specific defect in me causing harm to others, and I'd like it fixed. That is one praise for the Creator, to give him something for which he has no deficiency, that he will lack it. So in order for us to lack this, we also need the Creator, right? This is how we all start our spiritual journey as well. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, the beginning is always with the dot in the heart. So if I didn't have a question mark about life, I wouldn't be searching for anything anyway. I'd just be looking and running after a good life. All right, but because the dot in the heart awakens, that's already a help from the Creator, saying, hey, listen, wake up, you're gonna pass away soon. Life is short, and come on, what are you living for? So we first get a little help from the Creator initially when we start as well. So afterwards as well, we need to build this deficiency. So we have to kind of like grow that dot in the heart and turn it into a real lack, right? And that lack can only happen from the opposite, because we're not bestowal, we're desires to receive pleasure for ourselves. So we're not going to be asking for bestowal to the Creator. We can't, but we see how bad we are within the nature that we're created in. Then we can tell the Creator to change this nature, to make something else out of it. And anything other than being a desire to receive for ourselves, wanting to get rid of this nature, is going to be indicating that we want to bestow. All right, so that should make sense, okay? It follows that the kli that is called deficiency is a deficiency with respect to the feeling. So I have to feel that situation. I have to feel that my egoism is bad for everyone, for the whole of reality. That way I can then turn to the Creator, right? And the prayer is that the Creator will give him the light, which is bestowal, which is filling of his lack, and the lack is for bestowal. It therefore follows that the filling is a lack. Thus, so what does that mean? Filling is a lack. The right desire is within itself a filling. Okay. Thus, he has no other choice but to pray to the Creator to give him a deficiency. And this is what connects the kli with the light. So we need to work, and then we need to kind of demand from the Creator this change from the deficiency we feel inside. All right. And when it gets to a peak, it says we get help from the Creator. Why? Because we can't change our own nature. So the Creator has to do something, a little operation, right? A little operation on us so that we can then get a new nature. All right. Any questions? No questions. All right. Well, there's nobody around today? Nobody around. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. No problem. Right then. Oh, there are 10 people around. There are people around. Okay. That's fine. That's also good. 10's a good number. Right. Yeah. So let's carry on with item number 13. This is also from Rabash. He must perform every act of Torah and mitzvot in order to bring himself into the aim to bestow. Afterwards, when he has a complete understanding of how much he needs to engage in order to bestow, and he feels pain and suffering at not having this force, then it's considered that he already has something for which to pray for work in the heart, since the heart feels what it needs. For such a prayer comes the answer to the prayer. This means that he is given this strength from above, so he will be able to aim in order to bestow, for then he already has the light and kli. However, what can one do if, after all the efforts he has made, he still does not feel the lack of not being able to bestow as pain and suffering? The solution is to ask the Creator to give him the kli called a lack from not feeling, and that he is unconscious without any pain from being unable to bestow. Right, so this is something we got to go over again. So let's do it sentence by sentence as usual. He must perform everyday act of Torah and mitzvot in order to bring himself into the aim to bestow. So Torah and mitzvot, obviously, we're talking about studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. Every day I need to study, I need to attract the light. That's what Torah is, light. How am I going to do that? By doing the recommendations of the Kabbalists, right? So this is why we're trying to connect every day in the group. So we study the lessons, we study the material that the Kabbalists wrote for us, we try to apply them among us. That's doing Torah and mitzvot. Why? Because by the things I do, I enlighten myself. I begin to take recommendations, I begin to take advice, I try to apply the advice, and from the advice I get feedback, an internal feedback as to how my nature works. I begin to see how, as I get reactions from the outside, the feedback with respect to the work I'm doing with the friends, towards connection. I begin to get feedback, which allow me to see my real nature. That's actually doing Torah and Mitzvot. Nothing to do with religion, all right? So why am I doing all that? To bring himself into the aim to bestow. Because how am I going to bring myself aim to bestowal if I don't understand what bestowal is? If I don't know what bestowal is, how can I do that? I can only decipher and see the truth about myself when I'm studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. So if I see that the truth is really ugly, then I'll want to change it. Okay, so it's like looking in the mirror. Like I look in the mirror and I see I'm having a bad hair day, so I want to make sure I change my hair, right? So I have a good hair day. Okay, and the same with the wisdom of Kabbalah. Obviously, we're not talking about hairstyle, we're talking about spirituality. So if I see when I'm looking at the friends, and the friends are like a mirror to me, right? They reflect to me what I feel, what I am, because remember, from the perception of reality, right? Everything I see is a reflection of my inner traits. So all my relationships with the friends are showing to me like a mirror of who I am. So all the inner feelings, inner sensations, all the problems I see in the world, all the problems I see with the friends, all their negative traits, everything I don't like about them, I begin to understand that those traits are in me. So as I see them more and more and more, instead of going crazy, we can ask the Creator to change what we feel and see and understand to be bad in us. All right, and that is aiming ourselves to bestow. Right, so the whole reality is like a mirror, a reflection of my nature. And the more I discover it by studying spirituality, the more I begin to see where the defects are and where I can, want to change. Afterwards, he has a complete understanding of how much he needs to engage in order to bestow. Why? Because I begin to understand how much I'm engaging in receiving all the time. And how much am I engaging in reception all the time? 24/7. Right? Our whole nature is only and only engaging in self-reception. So if I constantly see that I'm just thinking about myself, then it's a problem. Then I can ask to the Creator, can I please stop thinking about just myself? That's the same thing as asking the Creator to bestow, right? Because if I stop thinking about myself, it's called a restriction, right? And then I want to, further on down the line, want to think about others, right? So we're going to go through this phase by phase. It's not going to happen all at once. And he feels pain and suffering at not having this force. So how can I feel pain and suffering because I don't have the force to bestow? I can't. But I can feel pain and suffering if I see pain and suffering because of my egoism. Right? So I can feel pain and suffering because I'm an egoist. So that is also the same suffering as if I don't have bestowal. Does that make sense? No, if it doesn't, let me know. Right? Because the reason I'm underlining this all the time is because we're not vessels of bestowal. The Creator is bestowal. We're reception. We just want to receive. So I need to see how bad receiving for myself is so that I can want to run away from it. By wanting to run away from my egoism, I'm actually running towards bestowal, right? So I'm beginning to, even though I don't know what bestowal is, I'm like aiming myself to the right direction. At least we've got some direction now, okay? Because in reality, there are only two forces, positive, negative, right? Night, day, sweet, bitter, good, bad, black and white. So it's all two opposite things, right? So if I see the evil, running away from the evil, it's going to direct me towards bestowal. So this is how we make it sharper and sharper every day, right? What are the Kabbalists saying? You need to sharpen up your direction, like where you're heading, in order for me to clarify and, make it a little sharper every day, how my direction is going to be, where I'm going to direct myself towards. Then I'm going to do the work, Torah and Mitzvot, every day. So every day I can kind of like maneuver myself from all the things that I'm going through and, make a direct, more straightforward, more focused, give myself a bit more focus in the direction. So he feels pain and suffering at not having this force because he feels that he's pure egoism. Right? So he's having a bit of a drama with his nature. Then it's considered that he already has something for which to pray, for work in the heart, since the heart feels what it needs. So once I begin to see that my nature, egoism, is causing me all the problems, it's not just causing me, it's causing the whole of reality problems. Once I begin to see that, then I'll definitely want to change and move forward. All right, so this is really important. That's the kind of stuff we want to be looking out for. Okay, and the only solution is if I ask the Creator to change me from my current nature. Right? Give me the opposite of what I am. That's asking for bestowal as well. The opposite of what I am is bestowal. Right? So I see my current situation as causing me harm, and I want to get out of it. That's asking for bestowal. This means that he's given this strength from above, so he will be able to aim in order to bestow. How am I given strength from above? Well, the Creator allows me to see my nature even more. Right? How's the Creator going to help me want to change? Well, he's going to show me evil, isn't he? He's going to show me how bad I am. What can he do? Right? So every day he's going to show me how bad my nature is. He's going to make me feel bad, right? So that I can turn to the Creator in a sharper way. It sounds a bit funny, right? So it's like he's beating us and giving us a bunch of suffering. But you can also say, well, it's a good thing he's showing me the truth. Because if a doctor shows me I'm sick, I can at least, consider what to do about it. But if I don't know I'm sick, well, I'm just going to, end up dead pretty soon. So it's all, it all depends on how you look at it, from the perspective that we're looking at it. And as students of Kabbalah, when we reveal more evil, obviously we have bad feelings about it. However, though, we should also be grateful for seeing that evil, because the ability to see something is bad is also the ability to want to correct it. Okay, so two things go hand in hand. I can't just constantly be battered by the Creator, and he can't keep showing me how bad I am and not do anything about it, right? So he shows me what I am because that allows me to turn to the Creator in a proper way, in a focused way, in a directed way, right? So I've got one, I've got the bad, but I've got the good as well on the other side because the Creator is good. So going through states allows me to make this bridge, it allows us to build a bridge step by step towards the Creator. However, what can one do if after all the efforts he has made, he still does not feel the lack of not being able to bestow as pain and suffering? Well, that does happen, but it takes time, right? Growing up takes time, and so does this business, right? Because we have to come to such a state that we have to really feel that our ego is our worst enemy. How are we going to get there? How can we move forward after years and years of study if we're still not feeling that? The solution is to ask the Creator to give him the kli called alak from not feeling. So that too, I should be asking for the Creator. So I should be saying, listen, I'm studying, working really hard. I'm every day on top of stuff as best as I can, right? May have slack moments, that's fine. But I'm working, right? All the time, I'm on top of it. Every day, I do something about it. And despite the fact that I'm working every day, I don't feel like I'm suffering from my nature. All right. So to see the bad, I should also ask the Creator. I should ask the Creator for, well, I don't want to ask for negative stuff, obviously, right? We're not going to turn to the Creator and say, hey, give me something bad so I can turn to you. It's not how it works, okay? But if I don't see how my nature is bad and it's hurting me, it means I've got to add some more work. And in order to add a bit more work, I can ask the Creator for that. Okay? Because if I'm not revealing anything new in me with respect to the negative sides of my egoism, it means I'm not really working, right? I'm not doing something that I should be doing. Or I'm a little stray, not really on the path, but maybe a little bit off track. So I need to bring myself back on track, that kind of stuff. So for that, you can also ask the Creator for help. You can say, listen, can you please help me out? Because I don't feel anything. Okay. Even that's good, right? Even that's good. Why? Because at the end of the day, there are days when you have days like that. You just don't feel anything. So it means you need some strength, some push, so that you can, mingle and, get in there, stick your head in the group so you can go through some discernments. And through those discernments, then you can clarify a few things. So there are days like that as well, actually. And it's good if you notice them, because sometimes you don't notice them and you just keep going day after day, and you don't feel anything. And if you don't feel anything in the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's not good. It's not good because it means that you're not going through any changes, right? Changes can only happen if I'm going through a bunch of different feelings, right? That's when changes happen. Even if the feelings are bad, it's still good because it means I'm changing. But if I'm not going through feelings, then I'm not changing. I've got nothing to really study about myself. I've got no discernments. I don't know what's good or bad. And then I'm just numb, right? So that's not good. So there'll be times like that as well. And we've got to, ask the Creator for help to get in there, stick your head in the group and, activate yourself a little bit. All right. And we're going to need that too. We have to do that too. That's also part of what we call freedom of will. So we're given a freedom of choice. And the choice, as you know, is in the environment because we're all products of the environment. So I have to every day decide what I want to do with my environment. Do I want to stick my head into a spiritual environment when I have the time and the opportunity, or not? So it's that or the other. So all of these things need to come together in the study. This is why the wisdom of Kabbalah is very, very deep, because it goes into, the really nitty-gritty kind of stuff in human nature. And it's sometimes very, overwhelming for people because we're going through a lot of feelings, and it's like sometimes you feel like you're all going through a bunch of stuff in one after the other. It's like non-stop, bang, 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 bang. And it's why? Because we're speeding up the time, right? As we study, the Creator is like making a zip file out of us, right? He's just squeezing everything in, and you like, within a short amount of time, you're like going through so much stuff, you're thinking like, I'm gonna get out of here, okay? And that's obviously a good thing. Why? Because if you don't, right, if you just live your life regularly, what happens is life brings you stuff at a certain pace, right? It's not one after the other, right? You have a few bad days, maybe, then you've got a few months of, laid back, everything is usual, the routine kind of stuff. When you're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, what you're doing is you're advancing your speed of development, right? You're kind of speeding up your development. And what's development, right? For us in spirituality, development is the number of discernments, the number of feelings, sensations, experiences I'm going through. So the more I'm working in spirituality, the creator is going to like, well, okay, let's increase the frequency of the stuff you're going through, right? Why? Because we're speeding up the time. So all of a sudden you're in this frequency where stuff is happening all the time. So right? Why? Because you were going to live all that stuff anyway. There's no escape from destiny. You were going to live all that stuff, but you were going to live it at an extended period of time. So now that you're speeding up time, you kind of like fast forwarding all the things you would have felt at certain intervals. You're like going through them in a kind of like light speed. All right, think of it that way. You're like fast forwarding your life forward. Now, fast forwarding your life forward doesn't mean you're gonna, finish your life earlier, as sometimes I feel people say, wait a minute, if we're speeding up time, are we gonna die quicker? No, you're not gonna die quicker. What you're doing is you're speeding up your time. It means that you're moving from one state to another quickly. That's what time is in spirituality. It's not like the clock in our world. So speeding up the time means speeding up the amount of things I'm living, right? I'm going through. Now, why is that important? Because that allows me to kind of get through all the junk that I was supposed to get through, so I can really go deep down into, the point of where spirituality can start. So I'm kind of like going through all the onion skins and really getting to that really center, juicy center of the onion. And it goes rather well with rice and beans, actually, if you do it Turkish style. All right. And that's about it. And I do believe it's 9:45. We have any questions? 2, we do. Okay. So Lisa is asking, I feel that I need to pray not only for the Creator to change my nature, but to change all humanity's nature, because of all we see happening. Is this a correct approach? Well, all of humanity is us, really, isn't it? The whole of humanity is egoism. And if I correct myself, I correct myself in everyone, because we're all part of one system. So our responsibility is obviously correcting ourselves and helping anybody else who wants to correct themselves, or helping humanity understand the states that we're going through so they can advance faster as well without the suffering. So it's important for us to first connect within the 10 and pray in that direction, because that's focused towards spiritual correction. So there are a lot of things in the world that are really, really bad. If you look at the news, there's some horrific stuff that happened in the world, but we can't delete the bad. The Creator will not allow us to get rid of the bad. He created the bad, right? So we're not going to be able to get rid of it. But what we're able to do is, through the study, we're able to want to come to a desire to change for the better. And that better is bestowal, love and bestowal, like the Creator does it. So we can't really get rid of the bad and stuff, but the right approach is always through the friends, asking for unity and oneness with the Creator, because the purpose of life, remember, is to connect with the Creator. And only a connection with the Creator will nullify the evil. It won't get rid of the evil, it'll nullify the evil. So we should always be praying towards that I want to get corrected. I need to get corrected with all my friends to be directed towards love and bestowal, exactly as the Creator wants it and exactly as the Creator is. And that will fix everything. Christy is asking, what does it mean? What does it mean to hate the friends? The friends, well, if our nature is a desire to receive pleasure for ourselves, and if our nature is just self-love, well, what does that tell us? It means we don't love anyone. It means we actually hate others. It's not so blatantly obvious, right, to us, okay? Because when we look at ourselves, we don't say, oh, I hate people. We just don't say that, okay? It's just because we don't see that. But when a person begins to discover more and more how egoistic one is, and that egoism, it means that I'm important and you're not. That means I love me and I don't like you, right? And that's actually how it works. So it's not so obvious to us. And as we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, as it says in item 12, where we have to deal with Torah and the mitzvot, right? It means that we study the wisdom of Kabbalah and we try to integrate and we work and apply what we've learned so that we can, come to see the truth. And the truth is the ugliness of our nature. So the more we try to connect, we begin to realize that, first of all, we don't want to connect. And second of all, I don't like anybody else. Why should I connect with them? And then we'll say, God, I hate all of them. Right? Because if we're egoists, it's impossible for us to love anyone except ourselves. And that's the kind of truth we need to come to see. And that's what the wisdom of Kabbalah does. It shows us the truth. And sometimes it's a bit heartbreaking. And, this is why a lot of people sometimes, a lot of the friends sometimes feel that, this is just too heavy of a burden to carry on because they feel really bad. But at the end of the day, we can't really escape the truth, right? So that's basically how hate works. We don't see it obviously in us all the time. Sometimes here and there we can say, oh, I hate that, or I hate this person, but it's like, here and there. But when we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, we begin to understand that, our nature is sheer self-love, and it's not going to love anyone. It's just can't. It cannot. It cannot. So if we see how harmful egoism is, we can want to embetter it. We can want to say, well, you know what? This egoism is causing me harm all the time, and I don't want to be like that. Now, I can see it's causing me harm, and that's what the study should bring me to as well. It brings me to see the truth that my ego is causing me harm. Then I can want to run away from it. That's still egoistic, but it's a good sign because I'm trying to run away from my own egoism. I want to change my own egoism. Even though that's also egoistic, it's actually a step in the right direction. So we have to come and see what hate really is. Ingrid's asking, what is the environment? Well, the environment is what influences me. I can have an environment where I'm constantly in corporeal things, corporeal desires, worldly desires, or I can be in an environment where spirituality is important. At the end of the day, right, there are only two environments. One that serves my desire to receive pleasure for myself, right, which is I want to go and do whatever I want to do so I can get some pleasure, or a desire for, fulfilling my spiritual side, that dot in the heart. That, there is no other, there's no other environment. I'm either going to go for corporeality or spirituality. That's it. And the environment is what influences me. The things that influence me corporeally for my corporeal desires, that's one environment. And the things that influence me towards my spiritual development, towards increasing the importance of spirituality, is going to be my spiritual environment. Okay, and Bestow is asking, if I know my evil side, but if I'm not using it, but if the ego continues to talk inside, how does it stop? You don't want to stop it, and you can't stop it, and you shouldn't stop it. Because the minute you stop it, you can't reveal the next layer of evil. Okay, and revelation is important for us. Guys, remember, we don't have to feel bad because we're egoists. We didn't create ourselves. The Creator did not give us a choice. He didn't say, listen, I can make you good or bad. What do you want? He just created us bad by default. So that it's not our fault. What is our fault is not doing the work to be better. And that's our fault. Why? Because if I see I'm bad and I'm not doing something about it, That's the problem. In our world, it's the same way as well. If I'm sick, I understand I'm sick and I'm not doing anything about it. I'm going to end up dead or seriously sick. This is one or the other, right? So the problem is in humanity, we don't understand we're sick. So the wisdom of Kabbalah allows us to see the truth that we are sick. We're destroying our own world. Think about it. Which other animal on the planet destroys the place it lives on? Right? Only we do. And we still say, oh, it's okay. It's just so, using a bit of plastic, what's the big deal? Okay, so, we just don't feel like we're destroying stuff. We don't even see that we're destroying our stuff. We don't see we're causing ourselves harm by doing all this stuff. So this is very traumatic, but this is how we need to get corrected, because animals live instinctively. And if we were to live instinctively, we wouldn't, we would not be able to elevate ourselves to a next level of consciousness, to a godly consciousness, let's say. So what we have to do is we understand that the ego is always talking. So I have to then make the environment stronger so that the bestowal side can counter my egoism, right? Remember, we always have two opposite forces. So against my ego, I need another force, an outside force, to balance it out. And that force is always going to be the environment. Because a person is, we're all created as egoists. We cannot fight egoism because we are egoists. Who wants to fight their ego? We just want to go out and get stuff and have some fun. Right? That's what we want. We want a good life, we want to get everything, we want to find answers. This world, next world, what difference does it make? We just want to get what we want. So we cannot fight against our egoism. But if we use the environment, and we can use that environment to give us greater importance for something else, and that can nullify the ego. Okay, so use the environment. Ingrid's asking, should I learn my group language because I can't really understand them in their language? What do you mean, like English? You should have an English-speaking 10 if you're an English speaker. And CABU should get you that group, right? So get in touch with the guys at CABU if you're registered there, all right? And they should give you a group for your own language, whatever your mother tongue is. If there isn't, if I see you also speak English, let's say English is not your mother language, then they'll probably put you into an English-speaking 10 as well. All right, have a chat with CABU, because everybody should have a group where they talk a common language, because otherwise how are you going to, do any workshops and stuff like that? All right, so in order for me to integrate with the guys, I've got to speak their language. So yeah, if you have a 10 already, get that. So I would get that sorted out, okay? Depending in what country you're living, also there's probably somebody responsible for the country you're living in, right? If you're living in a certain country, there should be somebody looking after that country, or the language department or something. All right. Okay. Okay. If you're Russian, they'll probably give you a nice Russian group. The Russian groups are nice. They nicely work. They're strong. And so they'll probably give you a nice Russian group. Even if you're living in the US, or even if you're living in, I don't know, Timbuktu, they'll find you a Russian-speaking 10. All right, so you can always get into MAC environment, that's Russian-speaking environment, and ask the guys there, and they'll definitely put you into a local language or mother tongue language. All right, it's very important to speak the language of your 10. All right, in the interim, guys, we have made it to 10. All right, have a great evening, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week as well. All right. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.